I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure, and this is Currents. One courageous Catholic activist remembers another. Plus, the story behind the Vatican's annual nativity scene.
And a Queen's Church kicks off the Christmas season in a big way.
Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. Well, people all around the world are mourning the death yesterday of Ambassador Richard Holbrooke. For decades, he was one of America's leading diplomats. Throughout his career, much of his attention was focused on trying to bring peace to many of the world's hotspots, including the Middle East. Today, talks aimed at bringing peace to that troubled region, well, they continued as U.S. envoy George Mitchell met with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. Now, Mitchell has pledged to achieve real progress in the coming months.
Well, efforts to achieve peace have long been at the forefront of Catholic social teaching, and in this country, one of the leaders of that movement is Father Daniel Berrigan, who first came to prominence during the Vietnam War. Now, in the decades since, he's continued to speak out against war, most recently at the Mount Manresa Jesuit Retreat House on Staten Island.
Father Dan Berrigan has been a peacemaker for half a century, and he's done that through word, through many, many books and articles, and through deed, through putting his life on the line, through protesting government actions, for being there where it counts. And we're happy to recognize him as a prophet and as a peacemaker.
Daniel Berrigan and his brother have been folk heroes when they were so involved in the anti-war movement. And now to think that he's here tonight to speak about Dorothy Day and that he knew her personally.
I've been very struck by the behavior of three great friends, Dorothy, Thomas Merton, and my brother Philip. These people pursued the good because it was good, in spite of the fact that it was bitter and harsh and seemed to go nowhere. One nation shall not raise a sword against another, neither shall they treat for war again. We have an alliance between the war makers of the world that puts those words to naught and simply says, we shall beat plowshares into swords and train again and again and again for war.
Dan is a prophet for several generations, including the current one. This is a generation that's being asked to fight in Iraq or in Afghanistan, and they're asking serious questions. So having him here to raise the important questions, that's what good retreat masters do.
We have two things going for us that we need to explore. And the first is the Eucharist, the breaking of the bread. Well, Dorothy would say, break it at large, break it for everyone. And the second is one another, a community sense, and that we can face our fears and our future because we are together.
It's very hard to live the prophetic life, and I think that's clear for any and all of us. It puts us at odds with society, it puts us at odds with values that are not consistent with the prophets and certainly not consistent with our God and the gospel we follow.
One really has a sense of what a wonderful thing it would be if there were peace. Resources that are now going for war would go toward helping develop people, you know, helping develop children, helping develop adults.
Dorothy could be found in her old age on a picket line in Manhattan or a picket line in California and be greatly, greatly, sweetly at peace there because it was good. It was good to support and stand with the farm workers, with the unborn and the dead and the aged and the ill and those uncared for and those at the border denied entrance. Human, ethical, spiritual movement moves mountains. What a lesson and how we need it.
Well, now it's worth noting that Dorothy Day is actually buried on Staten Island, where that talk took place. Her sainthood cause is currently ongoing. Well, stay tuned. There's much more currents coming up straight ahead.
When we return, less than peaceful times in Iraq. We'll look at what's been done to keep Christians safe following a string of deadly attacks. We have that and the rest of the day's headlines. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. Coming up in just a bit, we'll bring you the sights and sounds of a Christmas tradition in Queens.
All right, we'll look forward to that. But first, let's have a look at the day's headlines. In the wake of anti-Christian violence, the Iraqi government is building walls around churches in an attempt to protect parishioners from further attacks. The concrete walls are 10 feet high in some cases and are the government's response to increased threats against the Christian community in Iraq as Christmas approaches. Reports say holiday celebrations are also being scaled back to reduce the likelihood of more violence, like the attack that left 58 people dead at a Catholic cathedral in Baghdad in October. Well, the leader of a group of missionaries working in Haiti says as many as 200,000 Haitians could die if the cholera outbreak there is not stopped. Father Antonio Menegon, head of the Chameleon missionaries in the island nation, called the situation dramatic. He said the political unrest following recent elections is not helping either. Seaports and airports are closed, and the U.S. and Canadian embassies are shut down because of the violence. The troubled religious order, the Legionaries of Christ, will change the way it refers to its disgraced founder. Rome Reports has details.
From now on, the Legionaries of Christ will not refer to Marcial Maciel as our father. He will be called the founder of the Legion of Christ and the Regnum Christi, or more simply as Father Maciel. Along with this, the Legion will no longer place photos in their homes of Marcial Maciel, displaying him alone or with the Pope. They also plan to stop selling his personal writings and lectures in their publishing houses and centers of the order. It is part of a decree signed by Father Alvaro Corquera, Director General of the Legionaries of Christ. Significant dates in the life of Maciel, such as his birth or baptism, will not be observed, although the day of his death on January 30th will be devoted to prayer. The decree also states that members of the congregation can retain, in private, a photograph of Maciel, and his writings may be used in sermons.
Father Maciel was convicted of sexually abusing children and was also found to have fathered a child.
Well, the nation's largest Presbyterian denomination is facing a lawsuit over child sex abuse. Sean Coppage filed a suit on Monday against the Presbyterian Church USA, claiming the church did not do enough to protect him and other minors at a boarding house in the Congo. Coppage's parents were serving as missionaries there more than 20 years ago when the abuse allegedly happened. The PCUSA released a report earlier this year acknowledging that dozens of people had been abused, many by teachers, adult leaders, and peers at their mission facilities. Coppage says the denomination's acknowledgement and apology is not enough, though. He says the church should be held accountable. Well, earlier this year, the Catholic Church helped negotiate a deal with Cuba to free dozens of jailed dissidents. Now reports say more dissidents are behind bars for promoting human rights this time around. The head of the Christian Liberation Movement says state police violently arrested 2 dissidents last week. The 2 men are part of the Heredia Project, which promotes the rights of Cubans to travel freely at home and abroad. And finally, more Protestant churches are feeling the pain of the tough economy. A new study by Lifeway Research shows donations to more than a third of Protestant churches dropped this year. Overall giving was down 3%, and about half of churches said donations will not meet their budget this year. The report says pastors blame high unemployment for that issue.
Well, stay tuned. There's much more currents coming up.
When we come back, how does the Vatican get ready for Christmas? We'll show you.
Welcome back. Well, coming up in just a bit, we'll give you a front row seat for one of the biggest Christmas concerts in Queens. But first, another familiar part of the season, nativity scenes.
Well, yes, many homes and churches, even public buildings, have them, but none can compare to the Oasis Church in Pembroke Pines, Florida. It's setting out to break the world record for the highest number of nativity scenes. At last count, the church had 1,803 of the scenes set up around the church. The displays come from all over the world. Well, so do the church's members. They come from all over the world as well. It counts 2,500 members hailing from 84 different countries.
Well, another nativity scene with an international flavor is one of the most visited in the world. The scene set up every year in Vatican Square. It is still under construction, but Rome Reports got a preview and discovered how it all comes together.
For a few weeks now, the area around the obelisk in St. Peter's Square has been concealed from onlookers to shield the construction of the Vatican's nativity scene. Spanish nun Sister Aurea has worked on the setting up of the nativity scenes for 30 years now. She's also in charge of the dresses that go on the figures. She remembers when John Paul II started the tradition of the nativity scene in St. Peter's Square, a Christmas tradition which continues today.
The first year that John Paul II was here, like every other year, we did the nativity scene. He wanted us to do it in the square, and because we had never done it there, we looked for a place and built it around the Charlemagne wing. And that's how it all began. The first year we did it outside.
Since then, she spent 29 Christmases preparing the most viewed nativity scene in the world. Sister Aurea recalls that John Paul II wanted to restore the tradition of placing a manger scene in the home, and he also wanted to encourage younger visitors to come to the Vatican.
He wanted the children to come visit the nativity scene, and his hope was that many would, and that's why he started it. And when you go to St. Peter's, the nativity scene there is beautiful.
This is a project that begins many months before Christmas. Giuseppe Facchini is the architect responsible to make sure everything goes perfectly. It's a project involving more than 60 workers from the Vatican.
The construction of the structures, which are then covered with polystyrene, are made by Vatican workers, laborers, electricians, and painters. After a year of working on other things, they become impromptu artists, and they do spectacular work.
Every Christmas, this artwork adds new details, offering surprises to the public. Architect Facchini says this year's nativity scene will be visible from 360 degrees. And the Philippines has a special place in this universal scene.
This year we want to join a cave structure with the stable. We have a wooden deck attached to the structure of the grotto. Since the Philippines have given us structures which are very different from what we have, we decided to create a corner that is different from the others.
This gift from the Philippines attempts to bring the typical atmosphere of their country to the Eternal City. It displays a family of Filipino fishermen with a real canoe and baskets of fruit and fish. Preparation on the plaza started in November and continues until just a few hours before the inauguration on December 24th.
Normally we get to finish the day before the inauguration, including the night before Christmas Eve, which is the day it's inaugurated by the authorities, cardinals, and representatives of the countries that contributed to the Nativity.
Franciscan nuns living in the Vatican, like Sister Aurea, put on the finishing touches by dressing and decorating the figures.
We will go in the last days, because in the first days they're still working, fixing things. When everything is ready, then we will put them on. They have already prepared where we need to put one or two things. It will be when the kings arrive, the kings with members of their court accordingly. And then we will work as it seems fit.
It's a very special Christmas scene for children and adults alike who visit the Vatican, and it represents Christmas in the most universal way.
Wow, what a great nativity. And I love nativity scenes. And I have two, one from Peru and one from Armenia. The one from Peru is made out of clay, and the other one from Armenia is made out of some nice wood. And I love to put them up at my house at Christmas time.
Yeah, I remember as a kid decorating for Christmas, helping my mom and dad, kind of put things around the house. And one of my favorite things to put out every year was a nativity scene that had belonged to my dad's mother, my grandmother. And that was just always so special because it was hers, and it's so nice to have that there, as a kind of a centerpiece of Christmas time.
Something being passed down from generation to generation.
That's it. Well, stay where you are. There's more currents ahead.
Just ahead, sampling the sounds of the season in Forest Hills.
Finally tonight, if you haven't quite found yourself getting into the spirit of Christmas yet, we have something that might change that. We're about to show you some highlights of the annual Christmas concert held last weekend at Our Lady Queen of Martyrs Parish in Forest Hills.
That's right, and hundreds turned out, including me to sample some of the most beautiful sounds of the season. They really were beautiful, by the way, and you're about to hear them. The real work, though, began weeks ago when the choirs of Our Lady Queen of Martyrs and the Queen's Oratorio Society, they also take part, well, they began rehearsal a few weeks back, and we got a sense of just what a massive undertaking this really is.
Back in 1984, the pastor here said to my friend, who was the organist here, I would like to have a big Christmas program with orchestra and chorus, and we put it all together and walked out of the sacristy to see 1,400 people, standing room only, and it's been close to 1,000 every year since then for the last 25 years. It seems that we are filling a musical and spiritual need here in the community and in the parish.
Music in this parish has always been so special to everybody. We have a reputation now of being almost as good as if you went to Carnegie Hall, and that is the truth.
We've been practicing since we came back from summer vacation, since September.
Not to sound like my grandmother, but nowadays it's kind of amazing that you can get 50 people to come out regularly to rehearse, but that's what the spirit of this place is.
Having a concert like this, and this has been going on for many years, it has developed into a wonderful event, and many people come, and many of them say to me they just feel like they're into the Christmas spirit. This year, I think we got a tremendous response from the community, and it's only telling us how much more we have to continue to do things like this.
One of our oldest traditions, and the idea was to give the parish something of the quality that you'd normally get in Manhattan, a mixture of classical and popular music.
It's a beautiful church. It's inspirational, of course, the music and the decoration, the many people who want to hear this and obviously enjoy it. It's a great thing.
New York, and I'm from Boston, but only in New York do we get a reflection of the heaven itself and the choirs of angels, and tonight especially, and it's a manifestation of God's people, their faith, their goodness, and they're giving generously of their talents.
It's always a treat to do this program here, and to bring it to all the parishioners and our friends here in the community of Forest Hills. And I hope everyone will come back next year. Lord willing, we will do it again.
The music was amazing. I mean, it was a great night. It really was. I mean, there were all different styles of music. I mean, the first half of the program was selections from Handel's Messiah, and then the second half of the program were more along the lines of more contemporary Christmas, and a lot of the, older carols and things like that as well. But it was a great mix of different styles and just wonderful, wonderful music, great atmosphere.
So many people came out for it too to enjoy it, and like they said, if they're trying to compete with Manhattan, I think that they surpassed it. I mean, they were amazing, and it's not every day that you get to hear music like that.
Absolutely not. Quality was just absolutely amazing. You heard a song in there as well called 10,000 Joys, a little snippet of it there, and that's the only thing. You only get to hear just a small thing. But our assistant news director, who was also there along with me and our news director, it's his parish, she fell in love with that song. And so now she goes around saying 10,000 Joys all the time.
All right, Shufi, that one's for you. It's going to be called the Shufi song.
That's right. They're renaming it the Shufi song.
Well, that is it for tonight. Coming up tomorrow, a Brooklyn parish tackles the subject of teen bullying. We'll tell you all about it.
All right, but in the meantime, remember, we're always online over at currentsny.net. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter as well. Until next time, I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great night.